Right. On my way to the post office, pick some. Thought I would have more packages waiting for me. Apparently, I do not have any packages waiting for me. Well, this is cheap ass headphones from China. Didn't plan on making a video, but my man, Iceman, he made a video about America as a business. And, I was conceding some of the points that he was making. They were truly legit. Starting to rain, so I'm trying to get back to the truck so I can at least continue to make this video from the confines of my vehicle, So, anyway, he's talking about America was a business, and I'm like, look, the way I see it, because it took me a long way to get to the post office today because every route that I would normally take was under construction, which I understand, but you see that they're building up all these high rises, and I saw a report on the news that had said that the average rent here in New York, in Manhattan, was $3,000 a month. Now, I'm like, there is almost no way that anyone can be able to pay this rent that's coming up. It's just unfeasible. There is no way you can pay $3,000 a month and have that be 30% of your income. And at 30% of your income, that means you're making $9,000 a month, which means you're making $108,000 a year average for most of you. And then, that's not a realistic number. So what I see, in my neighborhood is that guys either shacking up. You got 6 guys living in an apartment. So if your rate is $3,000, you're coming up with $500 each before utilities and extra luxuries that you may be interested in. But I just don't see how these guys are doing it. And so, this is New York. So what I see in the future is going to be one of the most disastrous things. It's going to be a disaster. Because what's going to happen is there's no incentive to move to these, and especially there's no incentive to move to these cities. And for the people who already have debt, these people who already have debt, it's going to diminish their ability or the desire to want to have children. Now, if you don't have children, I mean, there's more to this, but if you're not having children, so what are you doing? You just got your education so you could work, and you could be a cog in the wheel. I'm going to be a cog in the wheel and make money for somebody else your entire life. That's exactly what's happening, but people don't see it like that. And it's already happening in the black community. All right? What you do is you remove the vibrance and the vitality of the male in the workforce. Now it's concentrated solely on the woman. Now the woman, what they wind up doing, if you think about it, the women you talk to, the women I talk to, they wish that they didn't have kids, so therefore they'd be doing better in their career. They'd be doing better career-wise. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, that's a crock of shit. That's a big shiny crock of shit. All right? What they're saying to you is that, well, if I didn't have these children, then I could stay in school. I mean, nothing stop you from going to school. They got night school. They got online learning programs. As a matter of fact, most of the stuff these learn in school is useless anyway. You just go there for the piece of paper. And then once you got the piece of paper, now you got to find a way to make it to capitalize on having that paper. So in that essence, you don't even need to go to school in this country. You just want a piece of paper. You didn't go to school in Morocco. You can go to school in Guatemala, in Qatar, in Abu Dhabi. But my point is that when you have a situation where your rent winds up being the equivalent of your monthly salary for some of these guys, it really puts into compromise the things that you thought that you were going to be able to do with your life. And I was talking to a friend of mine, he's a lawyer upstate, and I'm like, well, in comparison to the high school dropout, you're obligated for that student loan debt. You're obligated to pay that back, and also it lowers you. I remember when I got in school, I moved back to Schenectady. And there I am in Schenectady. I'm in the best part of the city, 12308 Union Street, right there on the Schenectady-Niskayuna town line. Best part of the city. All right? I had a one-bedroom apartment for $360. Had a driveway, and it came with heat. I couldn't figure out how to turn the heat on, so I just bumbled up with the blanket, with the comforters and everything like that. But you know, $360 a month. I went up there a few years ago, maybe let's say it couldn't have been 5 years ago, but maybe it was 5 years ago. You know, maybe either way, when you go to the same street that you used to live on, it's no longer as affluent as it used to be. It's more run down because when I was up there, the job market was tight, and that was say about 15 years ago. So you know, the last time I was up there was about 5 years ago. That means for 15 years after I was there, the young kids were coming out of college, and they were going back home, and they couldn't get work. So they're coming out of school and they can't get work. So there's no incentive to stay there. You know, and all of this stuff is related, man. It's where, you know, the rent in New York winds up being so expensive that people can't or won't move here. So you're not really getting the talented people that you want to be, which I think it's fair if a city like Cleveland or Buffalo could capitalize on that, then they really wouldn't have the problems that they have. Right? Hey man, if you need $3,000 to move to New York City, but you know you could buy a house in Buffalo for $12,000, and this is true. You can buy a house in Buffalo for $12,000 that here in New York would be like a $900,000 house. Right? You see houses in North Jersey that are going for $1.5 million. You go up to Cleveland, they want $99,000 for that house. All right, but what you guys have got to do if you're going to do this, you got to go there with the intent of creating your own job, creating your own enterprise. Because going there looking to work for someone else, it's not going to work. And that's why these cities are falling hard times, because the people have not understood the statement I just made. You can go to Denver, you can go to Buffalo, you can go to Erie, Pennsylvania, you can go to Pittsburgh, but you got to be able to make your own thing once you get there. You know, and that's, I mean, to come to New York and the 3,000, all of these cities have personality. You know, you can't tell me that Cleveland and you know, like Rochester, those places don't have personality. What they don't have is a population that's equivalent to New York, but they have their own personality, and this is where your opportunity is to make it. The people there, they don't have any ideas. That's why they're stuck there. All right, you got to go up to Schenectady. You know, they don't have any ideas. Now the whole city is messed up. Before, it was pretty much just, you know, maybe it was 5 out of the 9 zip codes that they assigned to that city were messed up. Now it's pretty much 8 out of the 9 zip codes, you know. So I'm sitting there, you know, trying to convince people. Well, I'm not really convincing them. I'm just trying to make a point, you know, trying to get them to understand, look, you don't have to come to New York, and if you do, you know, I'm all over the road here. But let me stick to my original point, is that at $3,000 for some of these buildings, which will not be occupied, because nobody's going to be making that kind of money that they're going to spend on an apartment. What's going to happen is a lot of these apartments are being warehoused. They're going to be stored. They're going to be renovated, and they're going to be stored for foreigners. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of people who don't live in this country, who won't even be here full time, 12 months out of the year, nor anything close to that. They'll spend maybe 2 months, 3 months a year in New York City in the United States, and then they'll be off to some place, whatever they live in the other side of the world. They'll go back to Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Japan, Moscow, you know, and this is what they plan on doing. This is exactly what they plan on doing. You know, you're going to have 800,000 vacant units, all considered to be luxury housing, which no one can afford to buy. But the foreigners will occupy those developments, and they will live lavishly, just like they do in Miami. To be continued.